We are back with episode 7 of the EB show, and tonight's going to be a cracker. A few things that I need to touch on. Had to note it down because there are quite a few things that I'd like to touch on. But, guys, before we get going, you know the drill. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, hit the bell notification. Please try to share the content with friends, with family. Gunning to Old Trafford was made by the fans for the fans, and we want this community to grow as much as it can, so that we provide a voice to fans around the world when it comes to Manchester United and Arsenal football content. The EB show, this is mainly, I wouldn't say unscripted, but I've got a few things that I'd like to touch on that doesn't really have a structured kind of flow around it. And up top, we obviously need to talk about Michael Carrick. And as the thumbnail says, easy setup to fail. A lot of people are talking about Amorim being sacked and what Amorim has done for the club, etc. But we shouldn't forget and lose sight of the people that put Amorim in power, and that's the Glazers, right? And the same Glazers with Ineos, or Glenios as we like to say it, are the same people who decided it would be a good idea to interview Ole Gunnar Solskjaer for the job, who thought it would be good to talk to Roy Keane, etc. for the job. And from the news that's coming out, it seems as if Michael Carrick was willing to take the job at any cost. And did Jason Wilcox and Umar Barada put somebody in that serves their purposes and allows them to play manager from the back, while Michael Carrick is kind of put in as a coach without any real authority to drive things forward? And I think this is a really important question, and I don't want Manchester United fans to kind of fall on this one, because it's really important to understand where we are as a club. We sacked a coach, and I'm talking about Erik ten Hag, after he won the FA Cup. We decided to back him with a 1-year contract and then sacked him within 2 months of that. We then forced Amorim to come in mid-season last year, where he insisted he wanted to come at the end of the season so that he could build his team, go through a rebuild, go through a preseason, define how he wants to play, but he was forced to come in. It was now or never. And within a process or project that was geared for 3 years, they sacked him within 14 months of him taking power. And this same incompetent board are now telling Michael Carrick that, one, you don't have the backing of new signings, number one. And if we sign anybody, it will be based on who Wilcox wants and what he wants for the system. And we'll touch on the transfers. And secondly, is that, all decisions will be made by Wilcox and co, while Carrick is made to be the fall guy. So is Michael Carrick, who's a legend of the club, brought in to quiet down the noise, while Wilcox and co get away scot-free again, and set Michael Carrick to be the scapegoat? We've seen this in the past. They've used Solskjaer to be the scapegoat. They've used all of their coaches to be the scapegoat. Why would Michael Carrick be any different? So, and then to top it all off, Jason Wilcox calls a meeting at Old Trafford the day after Carrick is announced, and in front of all of the players says, our ambition for the rest of the season is to get Champions League football. What? Champions League football, when this team can't win against Burnley, can't win against Wolves, and you're telling Michael Carrick, an interim coach who doesn't have any backing, that the only way you are deemed successful at Manchester United is if you get Champions League football. In what world are these guys living? And, Roy Keane summed it up really nicely about Jason Wilcox and co. Is that Jason Wilcox kind of mentioned to a few people that he thought, or he feels, that we two signings away from challenging for the Premier League. In what world does that happen, guys? Manchester United are so far off the pace, it is unreal. But the people that are responsible for this downfall are sitting in the shadows and allowing people like Ruben Amorim, now Michael Carrick, and the players to take the fall while they sit back, relax, and kind of laugh their way to the bank. Another thing that's setting up Michael Carrick for failure is, was Michael Carrick allowed to bring in his own assistants? Or was he forced to bring them in? And yes, Jonathan Woodgate maybe is a Michael Carrick addition, because he kind of coached with Michael Carrick, or was part of Carrick's coaching staff at Middlesbrough. But Johnny Evans was playing football a couple of months ago, then became part of the United backroom staff looking after loans, left the club about 3 or 4 weeks ago, brought on to support Fletcher, and now he finds himself a first-team coach at Manchester United. So is this something that was forced on Michael Carrick? And maybe that's the reason why Solskjaer wasn't giving him the job, because maybe he wanted to bring in his own staff. But, we talk about best in class. Is Jonathan Woodgate and Johnny Evans deemed to be best in class in supporting Michael Carrick to take Manchester United through the next couple of months and target, Champions League football? I don't think so. And then we get Gareth Southgate's number 2 to come in. And is this a sign of things to come from the club? Are they inputting Southgate's number 2 to kind of set the field for Gareth Southgate? And I'll touch on that a little bit, in the show. I don't think Gareth Southgate is in the race, but with this Glazer and this Glenios bunch, I wouldn't be surprised. And nothing. I wouldn't put anything past them. With regards to signings, again, this ownership fails to bemuse me, or kind of surprise me, because they brought in a coach in Ruben Amorim, gave him a 3-year contract, told him that we're looking forward to you rebuilding this team. Then lead up to the transfer market or transfer window now in January, we tell him we're not backing him and we're not getting him the midfielder that he so desperately needs. Then we get Semenyo available, and we go all in for a winger that we don't really need right now, where the biggest demand is our midfield. We sack him because we don't want to back him, and that he hurt Wilcox and Barada's ego. We then get an interim coach who comes in and are willing to buy a winger again. So all the talk this morning was that Jason Wilcox is ready to open up the checkbook and back Michael Carrick in the transfer window, but not for a midfield, not for a wing back, not for a seasoned striker, but for a winger that, yes, we might need, but is not the key priority to kind of get us playing a certain style of football. So again, are we being set up to fail by this ownership, by Glenios, by this new regime? Or, are they clueless and don't really know what they're doing from a footballing perspective? So drop into the comments. Let us know what you think. Do Manchester United need wingers, or would you rather see us, kind of get someone in the midfield to help support and drive us forward? I think this is a nice segue into the next field around who the new manager is. And again, the uncertainty around all of this. So, signings don't happen in vacuums. There's a lot of discussions, there's a lot of engagement that happens. Legged S, how are you? Drop into the comments. Let us know what you think about the stream, and if you have any questions for us. Southgate, Abdul, don't say things like that, man. It makes me shiver. I get sick to my stomach when I hear Gareth Southgate, that waistcoat boy coming in at Manchester United. Oh my goodness. So, we're at a point now where We have an interim coach coming in, and signings don't happen in a vacuum. And it's clear that this team needs to, change, and there needs to be an overhaul of this team. And we need to start looking for a manager to come in. If we wait for Oliver Glasner, it means that because Glenius are not going to pay out his contract, right? So what it means is that we need to wait until the end of May for him to come in during a World Cup year. How do you do any signings when players are now focused on the World Cup, players are focused on going on leave? Glasner will need time to kind of, take a break from his season, then come in mid-June and start working on a transfer strategy. I don't think that works, and it kind of sets us up for failure. Then we have the likes of Luis Enrique, similar position at PSG until the end of the season. He comes in, if he comes in, it comes in towards the end of May. Again, maybe towards sometime in June. Doesn't have enough time to have a full preseason, doesn't have enough time to bring in the right players for them to go through preseason, and we find ourselves in this rut again. If we wait for Thomas Tuchel, who seems to be the candidate with the most likely outcome of becoming a Manchester United or the next Manchester United coach, we wait for him until the World Cup ends, and he might take England deep into the tournament, which means he's only available sometime in July. He then needs time to break. We then come into the new season that kicks off in August with no preseason done properly, no new players coming in. So irrespective of who the coach is, whether it is Thomas Tuchel, whether it is Glasner, whether it is De Zerbi, if they come in, we don't give ourselves enough time to set ourselves up to kick off the season well, to get the right players to come in and help Manchester United get back. And all of the signs kind of focus on the available coach to come in early and to get going is Gareth Southgate. And the thought of that makes me shiver and makes me worry that, we're running ourselves into a really tight corner, and that, Gareth Southgate could be the next coach of Manchester United. I know a lot of journalists have come out and said, there's no chance that Southgate becomes the coach of Manchester United. But guys, let's be honest, let's be serious on ourselves. Over the last couple of seasons, do we trust the Glazers? Do we trust Ineos to make the right decisions? And let's just look at Ineos's track record at Manchester United. They've come in, they've kept the Glazers in power. We have the lowest finish in the Premier League era under the Glenius watch, so Glazers and Ineos. They give a coach a contract after winning the FA Cup and then sack him after 2 months. They bring in a new coach who plays a certain style of football, don't give him the players to play his style of football, and then sack him 14 months into his 3-year contract, and decides to interview Ole Gunnar Solskjaer for this role. So do we trust this Glenius regime to make the right decisions for Manchester United? And I know the answer for me is no. So yes, Leg, I hope it's not Southgate, but I don't put it past this ownership to kind of bring Southgate in to drive this forward. So let's see where it goes, but let us know what you think. Do you think Gareth Southgate becomes the next manager of Manchester United, or do you think it's someone like Luis Enrique or Thomas Tuchel, big name signings, or are we going to go Premier League proven with the likes of maybe a De Zerbi, who's now at Marseille, or Oliver Glasner, and I would chuckle myself all the way if we go with the Oliver Glasner, because he plays the same system like a Ruben Amorim, a 3-4-3. And, to all those guys who say, look at how Glasner and his team are doing, do we want another coach who plays a 3-4-3 system at Manchester United? So, yeah, that's where we are from a manager search perspective. The next point I'd like to touch on quickly, Bruno Fernandes, arguably being the best thing to happen at Manchester United over the last couple of years, or since he signed. No other player, or he's within the top 3 players in Europe. since he's joined Manchester United with the most goals and assists, so most contributions. He makes the team click, and we're seeing when he's out of the team, Manchester United don't click. Manchester United really struggle to bring that flair and to bring that kind of, attacking football. And what it's been clear is that from Bruno himself, where he said that the ownership tried to get him out of the club in the summer transfer window, and only because of Ruben Amorim did Bruno stay. So are we being set up to see Bruno Fernandes being forced out of the club? And don't think that's too far fetched, right? The Glazers are trying to clear out the books to make us, to kind of reduce the wage bill. Obviously, they got rid of Marcus Rashford by getting him to Barcelona. So it's clear that's a big salary of the book. Casemiro will be gone at the end of the season. Jadon Sancho will be gone at the end of the season. And now it looks like they're trying to push, Bruno Fernandes out. So that tells me that this ownership are oblivious. This ownership don't know what they're doing. And how do we replace a Bruno Fernandes? And again, do we trust this ownership to make the right decisions? Don't forget, under the Glazers, we sold Cristiano Ronaldo the first time around for £80 million, and we replaced him with a fantastic footballer named Michael Owen. So let's not forget that. Let's not forget the signings of Angel Di Maria. Let's not forget the signings of Alexis Sanchez and the crazy amounts of money that we threw on that. So do we trust them to force Bruno out? Yes. Do we trust them to replace Bruno with the right type of player? No. So where do we see this club going other than downward? So I would be worried if I'm a Manchester United fan. And to kind of top all of this off, we got Garnacho scoring a brace for Chelsea yesterday. I mean, that made me sick to my stomach to see that absolute brat scoring. Obviously, we know it's his class, but to see him score 2 for Chelsea yesterday makes me nervous. Legged, yes, I'm worried too. We are in a sad state of affairs, and if we think it can't get any worse, Glenios and the Glazers will make sure that we are not caught by surprise, and they will make it worse for us. Yeah. So the next one, Glenios out. Honestly, we can talk about formations, we can talk about players, we can talk about systems, we can talk about managers, whatever you want to talk about. Manchester United will never be back to the top of elite football until the Glazers are out of our club. Yusuf Bayat, Cracky, that's 100% true. They've destroyed our club. And until the Glazers and Ineos are out, Manchester United will never get to the heights that we were back in the day. And the only way to get the Glazers out is by fan pressure. They don't care what the fans say, but they do care about the impact on their pocket. And us fans have the ability to kind of drive the Glazers out through protests. So those are the fans that are on the ground in Manchester. Obviously, civilized, protests that don't turn to violence, but protests that show the Glazers that we're not happy with the regime. And what made them kind of step out, if you recall, a couple of seasons ago, where the Manchester United fans on the ground stopped the Manchester United-Liverpool game from going ahead, and that made the Glazers step up. Joel Glazer flew in from the States to kind of have emergency meetings with the fans, etc. And I think those are the things that need to happen to get Manchester United back up and running. But again, like I said, these protests need to be coordinated. They need to be done respectfully and under the banner of the 1958. They're planning a protest, before the Fulham game, and I hope everybody can get behind them to really drive the Glazers out. What we can do as fans from abroad is not support them with the merch, man. We need to stop buying Manchester United shirts from the official store. And listen, guys, I've got a plug for you. The Kit Locker and All Kitted Up kind of have you covered from a shirt perspective, a jersey perspective, and we'll ensure that none of those funds go towards the Glazers. So between Farid Asmal and the Kit Locker, we can make sure that your funds actually drive the Glenios out of the club. So guys, Kit Locker, all kitted up, is the place to be. So yeah, it's Glazers out or nothing. And if we want to see massive change at Manchester United, it's about getting the Glenios out. Sir Jim Ratcliffe is absolutely clueless about what he's doing with his football club. Jason Wilcox, Umar Barada, definitely not best in class. They are the worst, sporting director and CEO from the rest of the 19 teams that are in the Premier League. And this ownership model with the Glazers and Ineos are definitely the worst ownership model in world football. And I don't think that a club like Manchester United deserves this. And in order for us to go forward, we need to get them out of the club. 2 more points before I kind of close this out. When we talk about best in class, I just want to tell you where we are from a Glazers best in class perspective. Manchester United are only playing 40 games this season. Let that sink in, guys. 38 games because we have to play 38 games in the Premier League. 1 game in the FA Cup, which we got kicked out against Brighton. And 1 game that we played in the League Cup that we got kicked out against a League 2 or League 3 team. Guys, this tells you everything you need to know about the Ineos and Glazers ownership model and what it has done to Manchester United. A 40-game season doesn't only show the poor football that we've been playing and the lack of football that these players will be having. I mean, there's a time between March and April, within a 41-day period, Manchester United only play 3 games, guys. All the other clubs are going to be playing 4, 5, 6 games. We only playing 3 games during that period. Why? Because we aren't in any other competitions. No European football, no FA Cup, no League Cup football, only Premier League football. And even that, the quality of the football is poor. And this is the best in class that Ineos and the Glazers have been talking about. So guys, we really, really need to get the Glazers out of this club. And we need the Dubai consortium, we need the Qatari consortium to come in, buy Manchester United, put us on a trajectory for greatness, spearheaded by Sir David Beckham as the face of that movement, bring in the likes of Roy Keane to help drive us forward, and really kick these American owners out of Manchester United and get that fake Manchester United fan in Sir Jim Ratcliffe, who's actually a Chelsea boy, out of our club and back down to London. So guys, that's really important for us to move forward as a club. And then finally, I love Roy Keane and I love the things that he says, but there was something that he said, I think it was last week, and it was to do with Sir Alex Ferguson. And he said, Sir Alex Ferguson is sticking around like a bad smell at Manchester United. Guys, is it fair on a great coach like Sir Alex Ferguson to be completely removed from Manchester United? And let's take a step back, right? When Sir Alex Ferguson came into management at Manchester United, Sir Matt Busby had an office at Old Trafford. Sir Matt Busby walked through the corridors of Old Trafford. Sir Matt Busby was pictured with Sir Alex Ferguson taking photos of the Cup Winners' Cup, the FA Cup, etc. And Sir Alex Ferguson at that point dealt with the pressure of having a Sir Matt Busby around him. And these great coaches, these players could deal with those giants in the room. Is it now that we are so mentally fragile as a football club that the presence of Sir Alex Ferguson puts us under pressure? I can guarantee you Sir Alex Ferguson is not sitting there telling Fletcher and telling Carrick the type of football that he needs to play. He's not telling them the subs or the purchases that he needs to make, but he's there as an ambassador of this great club. He's there as somebody who's been through it and can give some sort of advice. And for me, I don't see Sir Alex Ferguson being a problem at Manchester United. I see the Glazers and Ineos using every excuse to take the pressure away from them and leak all of these stories in the press around Sir Alex Ferguson hanging around and making decisions. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer talking to the media about Hawaii. He's disgruntled that he didn't get the job. Ruben Amorim sold all of our wingers, and that's why we are absolute dog shit. The players not doing their job. The staff that's not doing that. At the end of the day, the buck stops with the ownership of this football club, because they are the ones that drive the direction of the football club. They are the ones who hire the managers. They are the ones who bring in the players. So guys, let's not be fooled by the Glazers. Let's not be fooled by Ineos. They are the masters of spin. They know exactly how to spin a story. They know exactly how to use the media. And you know, just like in life, when you have the media in your pocket, you're able to spin any story the way you want to. And Ineos and the Glazers are masters at that. So let's not fall for their tricks, and let's not be deterred or detracted from what the core of the issue is at Manchester United. And it was always the Glazers. It will always be the Glazers until they go on. And unfortunately, it's sad for me to say this, but I don't see Manchester United getting to the levels that I witnessed them in my lifetime growing up until we have an ownership change. And I'd like to, officially on the channel, to my Naila Paila, I'm sorry for forcing you to support Manchester United. You're in it now. Nabia, Mariam, you guys are stuck with this club for life. Let's hope that the Glazers are gone before you guys grow up and watch Manchester United again. But until that change doesn't happen, I don't see this great football club getting back to the heights that we know that they can be at. Guys, don't forget to like, share, subscribe, hit the bell notification. The EB Show, episode 7. It's been an absolute pleasure, absolute blast. Don't forget to drop into the DMs. Let us know your thoughts. Lagged, it's been fantastic having you here. Yusuf Bayat, Cracky, thanks for the comments.